I never imagined my life would shatter in a single day. As a software developer, I had built a good life with Sophia, my wife of 5 years. We had plans, dreams, a future mapped out together. Then came that business trip to Seattle. I rushed home early to surprise her with flowers, only to find myself faced with accusations that would tear my world apart. My own wife believed I had betrayed her, and what followed was a nightmare I never saw coming. Her family took matters into their own hands, and nothing would ever be the same again. Let me know where you are watching from in the comments below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to hear how I rebuilt my life after losing everything over a lie. I am Baxter, a 32-year-old software developer from Portland, Oregon. 7 years ago, I met the woman who would become my wife at my college friend's wedding. Sophia was the maid of honor, and I was instantly captivated by her warm smile and infectious laugh. She stood out in the crowd with her dark curly hair and bright green eyes that seemed to light up the room. Despite coming from different backgrounds, we connected immediately over our shared love of hiking obscure indie films and a particular fondness for spicy food that none of our friends could tolerate. Our first date was at a small Thai restaurant tucked away in a corner of the city. I remember how she challenged me to try the spiciest dish on the menu, and we both ended up with tears streaming down our faces, laughing through the pain. That night, walking her home under a canopy of stars, I knew there was something special between us. 2 years of dating later, I proposed during a sunrise hike on Mount Hood. It was just us, the mountains, and a promise of forever. Our wedding was small but beautiful. We exchanged vows in a rustic barn converted into an event space surrounded by close friends and family. Sophia's family made up a large portion of the guest list. Her brothers Thomas and James gave protective speeches about looking out for their little sister. Her father Frank, a successful business owner with a firm handshake and penetrating gaze, welcomed me to the family with what seemed like genuine warmth, though there was always an underlying message that I better treat his daughter right. Her mother Diana was more openly affectionate, embracing me as a son from day one. The early years of our marriage were blissful. We complemented each other perfectly. Where I was methodical and sometimes reserved, Sophia was spontaneous and outgoing. She worked as a marketing executive for a local company, and her creativity balanced my technical mindset. We moved into a cozy apartment downtown, spending weekends exploring the Pacific Northwest or hosting dinner parties for our growing circle of friends. I generally got along well with Sophia's family, though I always sensed they were extremely protective of her. Sunday dinners at her parents' house became a ritual. Her brothers would tease me good-naturedly, but I occasionally caught glimpses of their scrutiny. Frank would often pull me aside to ask about my career prospects or financial plans, which sometimes felt more like interrogations than casual conversation. Still, I appreciated their closeness as a family so different from my own small, distant one. After 3 years of marriage, both our careers were taking off. I received a promotion to senior developer at my tech company, while Sophia was made head of her marketing department. We started saving for our dream house, a modern cabin-style home just outside the city, with enough space for the children we hoped to have soon. Life seemed perfect, a reward for our hard work and devotion to each other. My promotion came with new responsibilities, including occasional business trips to meet with clients or attend conferences. The first few times I traveled, Sophia seemed supportive, even excited for my success. But as these trips became more frequent, I began noticing small changes in her behavior. She would call multiple times during the day, ask detailed questions about who I was meeting with, and sometimes seemed distant when I returned. "I just miss you when you are gone," she would say, when I gently questioned her behavior. "The apartment feels empty without you." I reassured her, constantly calling every night I was away, sending flowers to her office, bringing back small gifts from each trip. I thought her insecurity was temporary, something we would work through as she adjusted to our new routine. Then came the Seattle trip, the one that would change everything. My company had landed a major client, a startup developing innovative healthcare software. I was assigned to lead the project alongside Amanda, our UX designer. We would need to spend 3 days in Seattle, meeting with the client team and outlining the project parameters. The night before I left, Sophia was unusually quiet as we packed my suitcase together. "Amanda is the tall, blonde one from the holiday party, right?" she asked, folding one of my shirts with precise, almost aggressive movements. Yes, she is great at what she does. The client specifically requested her design aesthetic for their interface. I explained, not thinking much of the question at the time. I am sure she is, Sophia replied, her tone slightly cool. Just remember, you are married. I laughed, then thinking she was joking. I kissed her and promised to call every night. You are the only woman for me, I said. 3 days will fly by, and then I will be back home with you. How naive I was, not recognizing those moments as the calm before the storm that would destroy everything I held dear. I returned home a day early, eager to surprise Sophia. The Seattle meetings had gone exceptionally well, wrapping up ahead of schedule. Amanda and I had managed to secure an even larger contract than initially discussed, a significant win for our company. Stopping by a florist, I picked up a bouquet of lilies, Sophia's favorite, and grabbed takeout from her favorite Mediterranean restaurant. With gifts in hand and excitement in my heart, I unlocked our apartment door, calling out, "Honey, I am home early. I brought dinner." The sight that greeted me froze me in place. Sophia stood in our living room, her face contorted with anger, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her phone was clutched in her trembling hand. "How could you?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "I trusted you." Confused, I set down the food and flowers, moving toward her. "What are you talking about? What happened?" She thrust her phone at me. "This happened. Do not pretend you do not know." On the screen was a photo of Amanda and me at dinner in Seattle. We were leaning close together, seeming to share an intimate moment in the dimly lit restaurant. In reality, we had been discussing technical specifications for the project, leaning in to hear each other over the restaurant noise. The photo was taken from an angle that completely misrepresented the situation. "Sophia, this is not what it looks like. We were having a business dinner discussing the project. The whole team was there. They are just out of frame in this shot." "Stop lying," she screamed. "There are more." You two entering her hotel room. Coming out the next morning in the same clothes, my heart sank as she swiped to more photos. Each one perfectly framed to suggest impropriety, each one missing crucial context. The hotel room was actually a conference room where our team had gathered. The morning after shot was taken the same day after an all-night emergency work session when a server crash threatened our presentation. "Who sent you these?" I asked, my mind racing to understand what was happening. "Anonymous. Someone who cares enough about me to show me the truth," she said bitterly. "Someone who knows what kind of man you really are." I tried to explain, to reason with her, pulling up work emails on my phone, showing the meeting schedules, the conference room bookings, trying to provide context for each damning photo. But Sophia was beyond listening. Each attempt at explanation only seemed to fuel her rage. "I already called my brothers," she said, her voice suddenly calm in a way that chilled me. "They are on their way over. Your brothers, Sophia, this is between us. We need to talk this through, not involve your family. You lost the right to privacy when you cheated on me," she spat. Before I could respond, there was pounding at the door. Thomas and James burst in, followed by Frank. Their faces were masks of fury as they took in the scene. "Where is he?" Thomas demanded, despite seeing me standing right there. "This piece of garbage cheated on me with his co-worker, Sophia," told them, her voice breaking again. "He has been lying to me for months." "No, listen to me," I began, backing up instinctively. "This is all a misunderstanding. Those photos are misleading. I never cheated on Sophia, I would never." James stepped forward, jabbing a finger into my chest. "We always knew you were not good enough for her. Just looking for an opportunity to show your true colors." Frank moved beside his sons, his expression glacial. "My daughter gives you everything, and this is how you repay her loyalty." I kept trying to explain to diffuse the situation, but they were not interested in my side of the story. Thomas shoved me hard against the wall, knocking the wind out of me. "Please," I gasped, looking desperately to Sophia. "Call them off. Let me explain." But she just stood there, arms crossed, watching as her brothers unleashed their rage. Thomas threw the first punch, catching me in the stomach. I doubled over, not fighting back, still hoping to reason with them. James grabbed me by the hair, yanking my head back. "You think you can disrespect our sister and get away with it," he growled before his fist connected with my jaw. What followed was a blur of pain and disbelief. They beat me, methodically, two former college athletes against one software developer who spent his days behind a desk. Punches to my ribs, my face kicks, when I fell to the ground. Through swollen eyes, I saw Sophia watching, making no move to stop them. The betrayal hurt worse than the physical pain. Frank finally called them off when I lay semi-conscious on our living room floor. He knelt beside me, his voice low and threatening. "You have 24 hours to pack your things and get out. If you ever contact Sophia again, if you ever try to explain your pathetic excuses to anyone we know, what happened today will seem like a friendly greeting. Understand." Unable to speak through bloodied lips, I managed a small nod. They left me there on the floor. Sophia followed them, without a backward glance, the door slamming behind them. In the silence of our apartment, surrounded by the shattered glass of our framed wedding photos, knocked down in the struggle I lay, broken and alone, unable to comprehend how my life had imploded so completely in the span of an hour. When I could finally move, I called the only person I trusted. Mike, my best friend since college, arrived 20 minutes later, horror written across his face at my condition. Hospital, he insisted, helping me to his car. 4 bruised ribs, a fractured wrist, multiple lacerations, and a mild concussion. The emergency room doctor asked what happened. Mugdie lied, too ashamed to admit the truth. That night, lying in Mike's spare bedroom, physical pain radiating through my body, I experienced a deeper agony. My wife had not only believed the worst of me without giving me a fair hearing, she had stood by while her family attacked me. The foundation of trust our marriage was built on had crumbled entirely, revealing nothing but shifting sand beneath. The physical attack was just the beginning of my nightmare. What followed was a systematic destruction of every aspect of my life, orchestrated by Sophia's vengeful family. 3 days after the incident, still recovering at Mike's apartment, I received an email from Human Resources requesting an urgent meeting. When I arrived, bruised but determined to maintain some normalcy, I was informed that serious allegations of sexual harassment had been made against me by an anonymous source. The complaint specifically mentioned my relationship with Amanda and included the same misleading photos Sophia had received. "We take these allegations very seriously," the HR director said, avoiding eye contact. "You will be placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation." Amanda was horrified when I called to warn her about the situation. "That is insane," she said. "We have never been anything but professional. I will go to HR immediately and clear this up." But the damage was already done. Rumors spread through the office like wildfire. Former colleagues avoided my calls. Projects I had led for years were reassigned. My professional reputation, built over a decade of dedicated work, was crumbling before my eyes. The destruction extended to my social life as well. Mutual friends began taking sides, most aligning with Sophia's version of events. People I had known for years suddenly viewed me with suspicion. Invitations dried up. Social media became a minefield, with passive-aggressive posts about supporting victims and true colors being revealed. Financial strain hit next. I discovered my access to our joint accounts had been restricted, credit cards canceled. Even my personal savings account had been emptied, funds transferred just hours after the confrontation. My lawyer later explained that while not legal, it would be a complicated and public battle to recover those assets. As weeks passed, the stress and isolation took a physical toll. I lost weight, developed insomnia, and found myself jumping at sudden noises, a response to the trauma of the attack. Simple tasks became monumental efforts. The apartment I had hastily rented, using what little cash I had on hand, felt nothing like a home, just a place to exist, while my real life disintegrated around me. Through it all, Mike remained my steadfast ally. He never doubted my innocence, opened his home to me during my lowest moments, and eventually helped me see that I needed to fight back. "This does not add up," he said one evening, as we sat reviewing the anonymous photos for the 100th time. "These shots are too perfect, too incriminating. Someone set you up deliberately." The revelation hit me like a thunderbolt. Of course, these were not random photos sent by a concerned bystander. They were calculated, framed to tell a specific story. But who would do this, I wondered aloud? Who hates me enough to destroy my marriage? Mike was quiet for a moment. Maybe it is not about hating you. Maybe it is about wanting Sophia back. That comment triggered a memory. Early in our relationship, Sophia had mentioned an ex-boyfriend who had trouble accepting their breakup, Ryan. They had dated for nearly 3 years before she ended things just months before we met. He had continued calling and texting for almost a year into our relationship. He eventually gave up, Sophia had assured me. Probably found someone new. With renewed purpose, I hired a private investigator with money borrowed from Mike. The PI tracked Ryan's social media and discovered he had moved to Seattle 8 months earlier. Further digging revealed he worked for a tech-adjacent marketing firm that frequently partnered with companies like mine. It was circumstantial, but compelling enough to pursue. The PI managed to obtain security footage from the hotel where our team had stayed in Seattle. The grainy video showed a man matching Ryan's description following our team camera in hand during the exact timeframes of the incriminating photos. Armed with this evidence, Mike and I confronted Ryan at his favorite bar in Seattle. The surprise of seeing us caused him to briefly drop his guard. "I do not know what you are talking about," he stammered, eyes darting toward the exit. "We have footage of you following us," I said calmly, though my heart was racing. "We know you took those photos and sent them to Sophia." His face hardened. "Prove it." Mike placed a small recorder on the table. "We would love to get your side of the story. For the record." Something broke in Ryan then. Perhaps the weight of his deception, or simply the arrogance of a man who thought he had gotten away with it. "She was supposed to be mine," he hissed. "We had plans. Then she met you and threw everything away. I waited years for the right opportunity." "So you stalked me and fabricated evidence of an affair," I asked, making sure his confession was being recorded. "I saw an opportunity when your company announced the Seattle project. I have contacts there. I knew the schedule. All it took was patience and the right angle." His smirk made my blood boil. "I never expected her family to beat you half to death, but I cannot say I am sorry about it. You stole her from me." "She was never yours to steal," I replied, standing up. "And now I have everything I need." The recording was damning. Combined with the security footage and a thorough technical analysis of the photos, showing how they had been selectively framed, we had irrefutable proof of Ryan's plot. I sent everything to Sophia via email, unable to face her in person. Within hours, she was calling repeatedly, leaving tearful voicemails begging to talk. I ignored them all, directing her to communicate through my lawyer if necessary. 3 days later, she appeared at my door, alongside her parents and brothers. Their faces showed varying degrees of shock and remorse. Frank spoke first. "We acted rashly," he said, the closest thing to an apology his pride would allow. "We were misled." "That does not undo what you did," I replied, keeping the door mostly closed between us. Sophia pushed forward, eyes red from crying. "Please, Baxter. I am so sorry. I should have trusted you. I should have listened." "But you did not," I said quietly. "None of you did. You decided I was guilty without a fair hearing. You allowed I looked directly at Sophia, and you participated in destroying my life based on a lie." Thomas and James stared at the ground, unable to meet my eyes. Diana wept silently beside her husband. "What can we do to make this right?" Frank asked, businesslike, even in contrition. "Nothing," I answered honestly. "The damage is done. My career, my reputation, my trust, my sense of safety, all shattered. You cannot fix that with an apology." I closed the door, then leaning against it, as their muffled voices continued on the other side. Eventually they left. But it was just the beginning of Sophia's campaign for forgiveness and reconciliation. In the aftermath of the truth coming to light, I had to rebuild my life from scratch. My company offered to reinstate me after investigating Ryan's deception, but the environment had become too toxic. Colleagues who had readily believed the worst about me now offered awkward apologies. The tension was unbearable. Instead, I accepted a position with a smaller tech firm across town. The pay was less, but they valued my expertise and were unaware of the drama surrounding my departure from my previous job. Starting fresh allowed me to focus on rebuilding my professional confidence. I found a modest one-bedroom apartment in a new neighborhood, deliberately choosing a place that held no memories. With help from Mike and a few loyal friends, I furnished it, simply creating a calm space where I could begin to heal. For the first time in my adult life, I lived completely alone, learning to find comfort in solitude rather than fear it. Physical recovery came more quickly than emotional healing. The bruises faded, the fractures mended, but the psychological wounds remained raw. I started seeing a therapist specializing in trauma and betrayal. Our weekly sessions became anchors in a sea of uncertainty, giving me tools to process what had happened and gradually move forward. Trust is not an unlimited resource, my therapist explained, during one particularly difficult session. When it is violated so profoundly by someone you loved and her family, it is natural to become protective of what remains. Your caution is not weakness, it is self-preservation. Those words resonated deeply. I had been struggling with guilt over my inability to forgive Sophia, despite her persistent efforts at reconciliation. She sent emails, letters, even messages through mutual friends, each one filled with remorse explanations of how Ryan's manipulation had played into her existing insecurities' promises to be better. She took tangible steps too. She cut contact with Ryan, filing a restraining order when he continued pursuing her after his scheme was exposed. She distanced herself from her family members who had been directly involved in the attack. She publicly corrected the narrative about our breakup, admitting to friends and colleagues that I had been falsely accused. 6 months after the incident, we met in a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. She looked different, thinner, and subdued her usual vibrancy, dimmed by regret. "I destroyed something precious," she said, tears brimming in her eyes. "I know I cannot undo what happened, but I want you to know I am in therapy too, working on my trust issues, my impulsivity, learning to question my assumptions. I am glad you are getting help," I said honestly. We both needed it. "Do you think there is any chance for us?" she asked, hope flitting across her features. "Not immediately, but someday. I still love you, Baxter." That never changed. The question hung between us, weighted with history and pain. I took a deep breath, searching for the most truthful answer. "I do not know," I finally said. "Part of me will always love you. We built a life together, shared dreams and plans. But love is not enough without trust. And trust is not something I can force myself to feel again." "I understand," she whispered, "but I am not giving up. I will wait, give you space, prove myself trustworthy again." We parted with no promises, no timelines. In the months that followed, Sophia respected my boundaries, while making small gestures to show her continued commitment. Birthday cards, holiday greetings, brief supportive messages when mutual friends mentioned milestones in my life. Her family was another matter entirely. Frank attempted to make amends in the only way he knew how, offering financial compensation through his lawyer. I declined. No amount of money could erase what happened. Thomas and James made awkward attempts at apologies when we occasionally crossed paths, but the sight of them still triggered anxiety I could not control. Throughout this period of rebuilding, I discovered strengths I never knew I possessed: resilience in the face of public humiliation, courage to start over professionally, the capacity to find joy again, even after devastating loss. I rekindled old hobbies, joined a hiking group, volunteered teaching coding to underprivileged teens. Gradually, my world expanded beyond the trauma that had nearly destroyed me. A year after that fateful day, I sat alone on the summit of Mount Hood, the same spot where I had proposed to Sophia years earlier. As the sun rose, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, I reflected on the journey behind and ahead of me. The betrayal had broken me, there was no denying that. But in being broken, I had reassembled myself into someone stronger, wiser, more compassionate. I understood now how easily people could be manipulated by their own fears and insecurities, how desperately we cling to our tribal loyalties, often at the expense of truth and justice. I had not yet decided if reconciliation with Sophia was possible. Perhaps time would eventually heal those deepest wounds. Or perhaps our story together had reached its natural conclusion, a casualty of circumstances neither of us could have predicted. What mattered was that the decision was mine to make on my own timeline, from a place of strength rather than fear. As I descended the mountain that day, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for months. The path forward remained uncertain, but I was no longer defined by what had been done to me. I was defined by how I had survived it, how I had refused to let bitterness consume me, how I had rebuilt a life worth living from the ashes of betrayal. The most profound lesson I learned through this ordeal was that blind loyalty, whether to family or to assumptions about loved ones, can become a destructive force when not tempered by critical thinking and fairness. Sophia's family had loved her fiercely, but failed her by enabling her worst impulses rather than guiding her toward wisdom. Their protection had ultimately caused more harm than good to her and to me. I also learned that forgiveness, when it comes, is not about erasing the past or pretending the hurt never happened. It is about freeing yourself from the burden of anger, creating space for new possibilities. Some days I am closer to that forgiveness than others. The journey is not linear, but it continues one step at a time. Have you ever been falsely accused of something you did not do? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming adversity. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that even after everything falls apart, rebuilding is possible. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the path to healing begins when we least expect it.